Hi friends! Since February is quickly approaching, I wanted to take some time to share a little bit more about the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. Now, I do have a video kind of introducing the challenge, but in short form, I wanted to challenge myself this year to read more books that I own instead of constantly borrowing books from the library, because when I do that, I tend to prioritize the library books and never actually read the books that I own. So I created 12 different prompts for the year, and February's prompt is to read a book that is also a movie. Now, I have 2 books on my shelves that, well, that's not true, I have more, but there's 2 books that I'm potentially going to read for this prompt for this month that I'm going to share. And then I just kind of like went through my bookshelf and pulled a bunch of other books off to give us suggestions, because a lot of people have actually been telling me that they plan on joining in the challenge, but they don't have that many unread books on their shelves. So they plan on going to the library or going to the bookstore and actually getting books that fit these prompts. So I kind of wanted to just give a bunch of ideas. I'm not going to go too deep into plot summaries or anything, because I like to go into my books without knowing a whole lot. But I'll try to kind of give a little bit of an idea of what they're about. I separated them kind of into like piles here, so we'll see. The first book that I have that is on my TBR for February is The Martian. Now this one, I watched the movie years ago, and I know it's something about a man who goes to Mars and then for some reason his crew thinks he's dead but needs to escape, so they end up leaving him on Mars. So I think it's like a science fiction book, and I remember the movie being quite good, even though it's not something that I would necessarily generally enjoy. So I'm curious about the book because I've also heard really good things about it. The other book that I have not read that is one of my 2 options for this month is Hidden Figures. This one is about 4 African American women who worked for NASA back, I think it's between World War II and the Cold War, I believe. And I have not watched this movie, but I am curious to read this book and then watch the movie afterwards. The next stack of books I have, I would consider like children's classics. I have watched the movie for a lot of these. Let me see here. I think I've watched the movie for almost all except one of these. And I have not read all of them though. So the first one is Where the Red Fern Grows. And this one is a story about a boy and his hunting dogs, I believe. I haven't watched this one since childhood, but if memory serves me correctly, this is like one of those books that will make you cry. Another book that follows a boy and his dog is Old Yeller. This one, we owned the movie growing up, and I know the story, and I'm pretty sure this book would make me cry. It's like super small, so it might be one that I sneak in as well for the month, because I've never read it, even though I've watched the movie probably at least 50 times. One that I read last year is The Giver. So this one, I guess, is technically not a classic because it was written in '93, I believe, but it is a dystopian book about a boy named Jonas who gets the job called The Giver. It's the one person in their utopian world who stores all the memories. So that means he's got like the good memories, like Christmas morning and stuff like that, but then he also has the bad memories about like war and things. And I enjoyed this book. There is like a couple more that follow it afterwards. I think this one was the best out of the whole series and wish it would have just been a standalone, but this would be a really good short read if you need a quick one for this month. The next book, I watched the movie so many times as a kid and was my absolute favorite movie growing up, and it's A Little Princess. I didn't actually read this book until I was an adult, and I was so disappointed because the movie that I watched had a completely different ending than the book. So if you have not watched the movie, I would recommend reading this book and then watching the 1993 movie. There's also a Shirley Temple version, which I started and I couldn't even finish. I'm not a huge Shirley Temple fan, but the '93 version has a different ending, and it's just a sweet movie. I love it, and this is a really cute little book. The next book I have is The Secret Garden. This is one about a girl who moves from India to England and to live with her uncle, who's kind of never around. There's some mystery going on, and she finds a secret garden. So this was a cute story I read a number of times and watched the movie as well. If you're looking for another tearjerker, this is one that I told my 9-year-old that she needs to read this month, and it's Bridge to Terabithia. I remember reading this one as a school read in grade 5 and kind of broke my heart. And so I kind of feel mean picking this one for my daughter, but I think she'll also really enjoy it. It's about two kids who are kind of unlikely friends, and I think it just follows them through one summer and it kind of has some tragic results. The next one is a definite classic, and that's Anne of Green Gables. There are a number of different movie and TV series based off of this book, and it's one that if you haven't read yet, I would definitely recommend picking up during this challenge. It follows Anne, who is an orphan and accidentally gets adopted. The family wasn't quite expecting her, and she's just a positive, optimistic girl that she's really sweet, and I love her positive outlook in life, I guess. The next few that I have are like a diverse stack, but these are all have movies that have just come out in the last number of years, I guess. The first one is The Hunger Games. So this is something kind of completely different than what I've already shown. This is a dystopian book about really a bunch of teenagers that get chosen for what's called the Hunger Games, and it's pretty much like the last one alive is the winner. It's kind of dark. I started out actually watching the movie, and when I read the book years later, I felt like the movie made so much more sense because so much of what's going on is in their heads, and you can't really portray that in a movie. So I found the book to be a lot better than the movie. Another movie that came out a few years ago is The Help. This story is just as good as the movie. I really enjoyed the movie, really enjoyed the book. It's about a white woman who, I guess she kind of goes and she writes some articles about the help. I appreciate her ability to kind of see past the stereotype and tell the truth as she sees it. A movie that came out like a year or two ago is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. I think it was just a Netflix movie, if I'm correct. I read the book a few times before the movie, and once again, I think the book is better because this one is written in letter form, and also you just can't show that in a movie. It's about a writer in England who receives a note one day from this man on the island of Guernsey who received one of her books, or bought one of her books from a used bookstore, and he's looking for more works by the same author, and it's kind of like their correspondence back and forth, and she gets to know kind of like the people of the community, and it's a really sweet book. And the last book I pulled off my shelf to show you is Murder on the Orient Express. This is kind of one where you either watch the movie or read the book. I mean, you can do both, but one will spoil you for the other because it's an Agatha Christie mystery book. It's, once you know who's done it, it kind of ruins it for the movie or book, the second one. I really enjoyed the book. I honestly found the movie more confusing, but this is a book I would recommend. If you're looking for more options, there's always like anything by Jane Austen, Little Women, there's a bunch of like Charles Dickens books. I didn't pull out like all my classics because I feel like each one of them has been turned into a movie, but the options are endless. If you're joining in for the February Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, I would love if you would just leave me a comment and let me know what book or books that you plan on reading for the month.